one of the questions I have, okay, so do you factor in demographics at all in your kind of analysis in your research?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, most definitely.
What are you looking for in those demographics? And with the caveat that, this is probably going to vary to some degree by your region, your area, all that. But what are you in your area? What are you looking for demographics wise?
Well, without a doubt, I look at total population. I look at renter population. I do look at traffic count. I look at ethnicity. I look at income level. And I mean, that's some, those are the major points. I mean, I'll drill it down and look into, household size, and I'll look at, vehicles by household and different things like that. But, to tag on to a little bit of what I was saying earlier, as far as the norm of, hey, it's only people that are living in apartments and don't have a washer and dryer are using laundromats. Disagree with that wholeheartedly. Wash, dry, fold has been, and when it is done well, has been fantastic. I have some customers on the distribution side that I built stores for that are actually producing more on wash, dry, fold and are doing it efficiently, which is hard to find. I mean, one thing is, with the added cost of labor, it's difficult to truly be profitable. Hey, I'm grossing a tremendous amount of money on wash, dry, fold. Yeah, but what is it truly costing you? And is it as efficient as, self-serve? But, I look at total rooftops. I look at total rooftops more than I look at renter population, because there's a tremendous amount of, large families or, soccer moms or two household incomes that, it makes time is one thing that you can't purchase. And one thing in today's world that is going by so quickly. And if you can gain a little bit of time by dropping your clothes off and having it done for you, fantastic. And once again, the marketing to obtain that is huge.
Yeah. Which I do want to get into, but do you mind? I mean, I got you here, and I think people are really going to be interested in kind of this demographics thing, because I get asked about this a lot. Can I just ask some specifics about kind of guidelines that you're using when you're looking at some of these things? So when you're looking at, for example, renter population, are you looking for a specific percentage of renters that you're trying to hit, or what numbers are you looking for, and what does that tell you about the area in terms of performance?
Personally, I don't like going, If I'm seeing a renter population below 30 to 35%, I mean, if we're in the high 20s or below, then I need to find another reason on why I can make that location beneficial. I'm not saying it's 100% no. I have built locations with sub 30% renter, but I've had to be able to overcome that with some other benefits. But I would say that's kind of my bottom line. I mean, if it's above 35%, I would say my sweet spot is once again, depending on the area. I mean, if I'm looking at DC Beltway versus like rural Virginia, I'm not seeing the same thing, obviously. So I would say the sweet spot is somewhere between like 45 to 55. I do have locations, obviously in the more populated DC, Baltimore, Beltway, Northern Virginia area. I have, I'm seeing locations and demographics that are 65, 70% renter, which is fantastic within those given areas. But then also too, what does the competition look like? What's the base rent, et cetera. So to answer your question, I mean, my sweet spot's kind of 45 to 55.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's helpful. Yeah. And, again, always with the caveat that things change, but I think it's helpful to get some of these like kind of specific numbers or like, ranges or something like that for people, just to kind of give them a framework. So, I talk to people who don't know if, 5% is good or 95% is good. Like they, because they just have no frame of reference. So it helps.
But to be able to look at it and then take that number, and if somebody's pulling a demographic and it's 40% renter, being able to talk with somebody and bounce that off of someone that has the experience and say, okay, what does this 40% mean? Hey, it's not within 45 to 55%. I'm going to cross it off. No, I got a 40%. What do I now have to do to make this 40% work?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned before, even at that like 30, 35%, maybe your self-service isn't going to be booming. Maybe it will, but maybe it won't. But there's other opportunities, especially now, wash, dry, fold. Yes. And especially now as more and more people are starting to dip their toe in the water with pickup and delivery. And those options are starting to increase, as to, how you can get into that business a little easier to see if it's something that you want to do. And all of a sudden your radius kind of expands out and the demographics that you reach expand out also. So that, because that 30 to 35% renter, some of them may be your wash, dry, fold and your pickup and delivery customer, but probably the other half of that, that percentage, the homeowner kind of side of things might be more, more likely to use those services sometimes. So
that's right. And I also too, keep in mind, I'm looking at radiuses once, depending on the area that I'm in. If it's more rural, I'm looking at 1-3-5 mile radius. And there's times I might even go out to 7 mile radius. But then if I'm in a more densely populated area, I might be at half a mile, mile and a half, 3 mile, less than 3 mile. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say too, I have a laundromat in South LA and one on the border, East LA. And, that, especially that South LA one, like my radius is a half mile. There's 6 or 7 other laundromats within a mile radius of my laundromat. Right. And it's like, nobody's going to pass like 5 laundromats to get to my laundromat, no matter how great it is, really.
Yeah. To do the work and have that knowledge of an understanding of the area, is important.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what about, you mentioned income level. How does that translate to, to what you're looking for, in an area?
Well, growing up within this industry and just over the years, I've it's something that I've heard and I think that there's some belief to it that there are demographics and a portion of income level that is, for lack of better words, too low to use a laundromat. If they had a choice to buy food or clean their clothes, or buying food. And then there's also on the high side of that is if you're looking at an income level that is quite high, they're doing a laundry service, they're or they have somebody doing the laundry for them, or they have their own equipment, or whatever the case is, on a more average basis, and they're not going to come and do self-serve. But once again, I take that in an evaluation of understanding. Okay, for instance, once again, the given area within my immediate market is I will go down somewhere to 25,000, on a low end side. I'd like to go as low as like 45,000, but then go upwards of 125,000 for a household. Because once again, if I'm Northern Virginia outside DC Beltway, $125,000, that's not a significant amount of money for a household, So, but if you're in a rural area, 125,000, that's quite wealthy, So have an understanding of where you're at, but how high of a percentage of that income level is within that demographic, and how is that going to affect the turnout for both self-serve or any other services that you're using?
Yeah. And those kind of, brackets, if you will, can also help you dictate what kind of services you should offer, right? Like if you're in that, 35% renter market, well, you could make a laundromat work there, and you may or may not make a killing on the self-serve side, but that wash, dry, fold and or pickup and delivery could do really well there, depending on what the rest of the demographics say. Right. So
that's right. And that's why I don't like putting hard, ranges and say it's this or nothing, No, you could be a little bit more strict with it based on how your process and operation is. If you are a strictly unattended, self-serve only, okay, then be a little bit more strict on what your demographic numbers look like. But if you're going into this as a business and you just want to maximize the opportunity of a laundromat, and you're willing to bend in one direction or another to figure out what it takes to produce income, then you can open that range up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Okay, man. Awesome talk on demographics.